And at this point, I genuinely thought I might be getting dropped here. Just as soon as the connection is made, it's lost and someone just couldn't hold the wheel. Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today is going to be a bit of a different video and I'm going to be doing a full recap of my most recent Zwift race, the Zwift Racing League Tuesday night race. If you're not much of a Zwifter, I'd still urge you to hang around because the ending of this race is pretty interesting. So this isn't just your standard race, this is actually a points race. So there's multiple places you can get points. There's 2 sprint points and 1 KOM point, and then also it's in teams, so you're trying to accumulate the most points as a team. As per usual in a Zwift race, we went really hard off the gun, but it settled down really quickly. And then through this kind of windy intestine section, there were a couple of people who tried to make it off the front, but they ended up getting sucked back by the group in the end. Most people were kind of afraid of what was to come, so no one wanted to spend their bullets at this point in the race. I was also trying to conserve here, but there was a point where the group really did get strung out and someone managed to leak off the front around 3K before the first sprint. They ended up getting a pretty decent gap, but that was really no concern to me because I didn't actually want to contest the first sprint. In fact, this was my strategy. Okay, objective here, get through it with as little effort as possible. And I carried out that strategy pretty effectively, only averaging around 530 watts for the 30 seconds around that sprint. When you go through the sprint banner, you get a power-up. I unfortunately got a ghost power-up, which is arguably the worst power-up you can get. I was hoping for an arrow or a draft power-up to use in the next sprint, but yeah, can't get lucky. Also, just for some context, my max heart rate is around 196 beats per minute, so I'm sitting here around 179, which means I still have a lot of room to play with here. Which is a good thing because the next segment is the KOM segment, which is more of a glorified uphill drag sprint, but I'm still intending to go for this one. By the time we got to the base of the KOM, there was still a guy off the front and it didn't look like we were going to catch him, but I just gave a full effort anyways, and it was a pretty good effort. I did 11.7 watts per kilo for 30 seconds, so I can't be too disappointed about that, but no power up, so it didn't end up yielding the greatest result in the end. And this is how the effort sounded like on the day. You can ignore the squeaking from my front tire, it was a bit deflated. Then, much to my disappointment, as we went through the banner, I got yet another ghost power-up. So yeah, 2 times unlucky there. The next sprint section was only around 1 minute after the KOM, so there was a very short period of time to recover. And since I did have the ghost power-up, I decided make the most out of it and try to do a long bomb attack, but it didn't really go anywhere. I was definitely paying the price of doing a full-out effort on the earlier KOM. The pack came by me with so much speed, it was as if they were actually racing and I was just on my morning commute going into work. At this point, the only thing I was focused on was the minimap, and essentially I was just trying to see the back of the group because I knew that I could recover up to the point the back of the group caught up to me, and then I knew once they've caught up to me, the recovery period was over and I'd have to get back on the pedals. And people were still going hard at the front here. You can see how lined out the group was, and at this point I genuinely thought I might be getting dropped here. The group did eventually slow down and I was still hurting, but I figured everybody else is probably still hurting too, so I decided to try and send an attack and see what would happen. So a real call an ambulance moment, but not for me. And as it turns out, I guess no one actually was hurting, it was just me because everybody was quick on my wheel and I pretty much got no gap at all. I wish I could have told you that that was just a tester attack to see who was feeling like what, but that was genuinely all I had at that moment and it pretty much went nowhere. So yeah, super demoralizing. I ended up just slotting back into the group and I just thought to myself, I guess this is just going to be another one of those Zwift races that ends in a big field sprint. But at the start of the video, I did promise you guys that this was actually going to be an interesting Zwift race. So ending in a field sprint, that wouldn't really be that interesting because every Zwift race ends in a field sprint. If we cut forward a bit, one rider actually did manage to get a bit of a gap on the group. And when this happens after one of my attacks that gets chased down instantly, it always goes into my head like, oh, why does this guy get to go off the front? But then when I'm attacking, everybody and their pet dog is on my wheel. Nevertheless, I decided I'm going to give the breakaway one more try, so I'm going to try and snap bridge to this guy. So I popped my draft power up and kind of waited around in the group just to use it up a bit and get a bit of recovery before I'm about to do a pretty hard effort. And then towards the end of the draft power up, I use it to slingshot me through the group and to the guy's wheel. Whilst making this effort to bridge across, I'm quite aware of what's happening on the right-hand side of the screen, so I'm definitely noticing that one guy is trying to come across with us, but I'm also looking to see what the group is doing. And I see they're doing around 5.5 to 6 watts per kilo. So they're still chasing. They haven't given up yet, but they're not like full on snap bridging. So as soon as I get to the guy's wheel, I come right to the front and do an effort just to show him that I'm committed to this break and also to solidify the gap. So I can tell that the group's doing 5 to 6 watts per kilo. So I'm on the front doing over 6 to really solidify that gap. The two of us rotated pretty well together, but we never really got more than a 3 to 4 second gap from the group. There were also some people leaking across to us, which was actually kind of a good thing because these people were strong people and they were kind of snap bridging, which is good for us because it meant that them being up here means less strong people were in the field to pull us back. With only 3 kilometers left of racing and a 3 second gap, I felt it was possible that we make it, so I just put my head down and put in my turns, did the work, and tried to keep this gap alive. But then tragedy struck. With only 2.2 Ks left in the race, the long arm of the peloton reached out and grabbed us. Or at least so I thought. If you look in the mini-map there, you can see the group actually does eventually make the connection and we're one solid line, but just as soon as the connection is made, it's lost and someone just couldn't hold the wheel and a new gap opens and we're now a breakaway group of around 10. At this point, my legs were pretty much concrete blocks, but I was lucky that people had bridged across with fresher legs since they had been sitting in the peloton while me and my breakaway companion had been out front putting in effort. So I decided I'd just stay at the back of the group here and try and conserve as much energy as possible and hopefully do a somewhat reasonable sprint at the end here. And although my legs recovered a bit, and I actually did end up putting up decent numbers, especially compared to the rest of the group, I managed to really screw this sprint up. So I'll let you guys watch the sprint and judge me, and then I'll go back and tell you guys what I think I did wrong. Alright, let's rewind and see what I did wrong here because I think I had the legs to at least finish on the podium today. So you'll notice that the rider beside me used a ghost power up at this point and I knew he was going to be kicking through the group, so I thought, okay, I'm going to kick as well right now and when he reappears I'll be on his wheel. But then I looked at the distance to go and thought, you know what, it's a bit too early and I have committed to the effort, and by the time my speed brought me to the front, I decided, yeah, this is way too early. I don't want to be doing this right now. So I sat up a bit and I essentially lost all my speed, and that was my biggest mistake. So I lost all my speed, then everybody else starts to kick. I have to kick and re-accelerate. And yeah, at this point, the race is lost. So what I should have done was I should have just committed. And for that first effort, when I saw that guy go ghost mode, I should have just gone with it and carried the sprint all the way through to the finish because I think I did have the legs, but unfortunately, I just didn't have the confidence that day. Regardless of the result, it was still a super fun and dynamic race and I got good training effort out of it. If you're one of those Zwift haters who only made it to this point in the video because I told them the end was going to be interesting, let me know, was the end interesting enough, or are you still a Zwift hater and did I just waste 10 minutes of your life that you're never going to get back? And also for those of you who actually do like the content, thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a comment, let me know what you think. Do you want me to do more of this Zwift stuff? Are you interested in my Zwift race recaps, or do you want to see more outdoor stuff?